Very simple, from the colonial rule. It is the British who introduced the concept of minority, and the amorphous, as they called it, amorphous, stagnant majority of Hindus. These are terms which recur in the colonial literature. So the Constitution fairly passively repeated this concept of majority and minority. Not totally passively, as I will show you in a few minutes. So we have the concept mostly of Muslim and Christian minorities. They are the ones which are in the news. We rarely speak much of either minorities like the Sikhs or the Parsis, the Jews, very rarely. Of course, there have been such tiny numbers now. There are actually many other minorities in India, but these are the two minorities which we keep hearing about. I'd like to point out that the Muslim minority has today 195 million members. For a minority, I think that's quite a large number. It is 3 times the population of UK, for example. So anyhow, whether it qualifies as a minority or not, we can keep that in suspense. Christians numerically are a minority, but things are not so simple. I lived in the Nilgiris of Tamil Nadu for 21 years, and I saw that all the best real estate, the best bungalows, the largest tea estates belonged to Christians. In those days, almost all the schools, government-aided schools, were managed by Christians. All the hospitals, barring 1 or 2, things have changed a bit now, were Christian hospitals. Do you call this a minority, an oppressed, suppressed minority, when it dominates the landscape so much? Of course, you might say it's only one district. But I can repeat this, I think, to some extent here or there. So what exactly, should a minority be simply reduced to numbers? If so, are Hindus in Kashmir accepted as a minority? This question was recently put to the Supreme Court, and as always in India, we are very good at throwing questions back and forth. Nobody wants to answer, you know. So Supreme Court asked the government to decide whether Hindus in Kashmir, who happens to be numerically, in minority, should be accepted as a minorities, because if so, under the Constitution, they should have certain rights. As of now, they don't. Very strange. We thought that minorities would have certain rights and privileges, but only certain minorities, it appears. So you can see that these questions are not simple. And I'm not trying to give cut and dry answers today. But more than the question of minority, I want to address the question of majority. When we say the majority, the clear implication from the language is that we expect a monolithic, integrated, coherent majority, which incidentally our politicians have been arguing against when they say that don't give Hindus the right to manage their temples because they are hopelessly divided. So if Hindus are hopelessly divided, why should they be regarded as one majority? It is true, in fact, that the identity of Hindus is not a simple thing. Just keep talking to as many Hindus as you can across India. I've done it in my small scale. You will find that many Hindus, perhaps most, I cannot offer statistics, identify themselves first and foremost through their jati, through their community. Community identity with many Hindus is more important than attachment to Hinduism. This has been my own personal experience. You may contest it. This would have to be, ascertained perhaps through some significant survey. Second is language. I know many Hindus, Tamil Hindus, for whom being Tamilians, that means Tamil speaker, is more important than being a Hindu. So you have community, you have language, you have religion, all of these, and these are part of this identity. There's no doubt, it's a complex identity because it has been shaped by so many factors across history. So you have caste or community, as you wish to call it, and sometimes also geography. Speak to a Bengali, for example. I mean no offense. I have many dear Bengali friends. But for a Bengali, Bengal is very important. The geography is very important. So therefore, all these are part of the identity. You cannot say that Hindus are a monolithic majority. They are not. And it's very easy to show why. When you have had a Hindu movement, for example, the largest Hindu movement, as far as I can see, you can suggest others if you wish, in post-independent India has been the movement for the construction of a Ram temple in Ayodhya. I think this should be one of the largest. How many Hindus in India have been active in this? A very small fraction. I would be surprised if it was more than 10 or 15 or 20%. Of course, some regions like Uttar Pradesh, obviously, and a few other northern Indian states had a greater following. In South India, there was almost no participation, as far as I could see, no mass participation or even enthusiasm for such a movement. You do not have a single Hindu response to such issues or to such movements or to such problems. So it is true that Hindus are divided, hopelessly or not, I cannot say. And this is actually one feature of their identity, that Hinduism has promoted whatever the social phenomenon of caste is. It's completely different. I'm not going to talk about it. But culturally speaking, Hinduism has promoted endless diversity. It is not tolerance. It is encouragement of diversity. It has encouraged people to not only follow their own paths, but to create new paths all the time, all the time. Any Hindu today can stand up and say, I'm the new avatar. Fine. The only question is whether he can gather enough followers. That's the only question. If he or she can, why not? So you have a new avatar. So therefore, there is no limit. And therefore, this is a very complex identity made of endless number of strands. Therefore, my point is that this is something I realized in the course of my study of India, and I don't belong to any caste or region or language. It is that there is no such thing as one Hindu majority. It doesn't exist. In that sense, our politicians who say Hindus are, hopelessly divided, there is some little truth. Of course, it's distorted, but there is some little truth in that. So if there is not one Hindu monolithic majority, why do we speak of the majority-minority binary? Has the Constitution not done a disservice to independent India by enshrining this binary in it? This is a question which I think we need to think about deeply. And